For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Yeah! All right. Welcome back to 30-odd minutes. We've missed you guys. It's great to be back here in our studio, holding it down, looking into all things strange and unusual. We've had a good break, good long break for the holidays and things like that, and we've got a lot of email. A lot of you reached out to us on Twitter and on Facebook and on email. Want to say thank you. And if you're watching our show live at 30oddminutes.com, please do jump in the chat room, because tonight the lovely and talented Rob and Andrew are waiting for you. There they are in the oddball pit, ready to pass your questions on up to us. You did send us some emails this week, some bad, some good, but maybe we should start with the bad. What do you think, Rob?
Sure, we did get a pretty bad one from a Francis Minkle, is his name. And he says, I used to have a lot of respect for this guy, for his books and research, but I can't help think that he mustn't have a literary agent, because he would have been advised by that person to protect his book franchise and not act like a fool on the internet.
He does it outside, why not?
Jackass.
Just being me.
It's embarrassing to watch him go down in flames like this. I've lost all respect for you, Jeff. Francis Minkle.
That hurts.
His PS2 broke down. He had nothing else to do in Mom's basement.
It does hurt, though. Seriously. I mean, you know, cut me, I do bleed. Gosh, wow. I will talk to my literary agent and see if she advises against this. But until then, I guess you're stuck. We got good emails, too. Please save us, Andrew.
Yeah, we got this one from Ray Syok. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, Ray, I'm sorry, from Rochester, Minnesota. He said, just started listening to your show a few weeks ago via iTunes. I downloaded all the past episodes and look forward to watching it each week. Love the added humor and down-to-earth approach to each episode. Take care. Thanks so much, Ray. Appreciate that.
Thank you. We feel better.
Thanks, Ray.
We feel better.
You're
all right.
right,
Thank
Ray.
you so much. You know, we love all the way you reach out to us on Twitter, on Facebook, on email. There was a great tweet today. I follow several different Twitter accounts, including many of our guests. But check this one out. This one came up today. This was a very popular Twitter account that was turned into a book, that was turned into a popular TV series starring William Shatner. Bring it up any moment. There it is. This is from Stuff My Dad Says. Little asterisk there. Today he wrote, no, aliens exist. I just don't think they came millions of light years just to see Earth. Be like driving 1,000 miles to go to an Arby's. I love that account. Yep. Seriously, that thing cracks me up all the time, and I thought, you know, good paranormal reference. We love it. We do ask you to send us your field reports. Go out, take your video camera, capture something great, unusual, and strange near where you live. And some of you did. Faith Bishop did this week. She sent us something from Bay Cemetery, which is right near Bunker, Missouri, the Show Me State. So please, show me this field report.
Hi, Oddballs. This is Faith, and I am currently at the Bay Cemetery. And the story that surrounds this place is back in the early 1900s, there was a man who was crossing nearby this cemetery on horseback, and he came face to face with a hellhound, or what is reported to be a hellhound. Now, I'm not exactly sure where he was crossing at, but it was somewhere in this general area, and it is described that this creature was transparent, like it was almost made out of ectoplasm, and it had glowing red eyes. It apparently lunged at his horse and then disappeared. So that's kind of creepy, and that's my story surrounding this cemetery.
Okay.
What are we going to talk about?
Hey, damn good job, I thought.
That was
pretty interesting.
Very good.
Pretty interesting. We appreciate the field reports.
We got some Facebook hits, if you'd like to hear. Julie Glenn says, Ophiuchus? Is that how you say it? Ophiuchus? Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus, yeah. Ophiuchus.
Sounds like a Chinese venereal disease.
Ooh. Ooh.
And then we get another one from Heather Ann Ramey Rebman, I believe is how you say it.
Yep.
I don't know. I think it is just a way to make astrologists look bad. I am a true Pisces Aquarius cusp girl.
Ooh.
What's a cusp girl?
That's right there on the line.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Living on the edge.
But I'm a Pisces.
Hey, I'm an Aries.
Yeah.
Forget it. An airheaded genius that loves and cares way too much. That is not a Capricorn or a true Aquarius. Leave the zodiac alone. It isn't broken.
That's right. That's right. I agree.
I don't know. Let's see if we got any.
I just walked right in front of their camera. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
He does it all the time.
We're just having a couple technical difficulties. It does happen.
Hi, oddballs. This is Faith.
This is what happens sometimes. We're working on it, and there we are. We had some breaking news this week as we try to bring up our guest on Skype, because there are some of the issues we deal with. Ophiuchus. This made the news recently. This was the 13th astrological sign. What's so interesting, it's a Greek word that comes from a serpent bearer. And there's an astrological sign. This is not new news. This is what the breaking news actually is. People think their astrological sign has changed because an astronomer named Park Kunkel, thank you very much, Park Kunkel, who's an astronomer at the community college in Minneapolis, kind of announced, because the Earth has switched its axis, the tilt has changed, that the actual stars don't line up the way they did 3,000 years ago, which of course is true. That is indeed a fact. Things have changed. So he said, well, there really should be a 13th sign to account for this, which put the whole world in an uproar, especially people who follow astrology. If you look at the dates that Professor Kunkel put forward, and we do have some of those, everything got switched. So maybe we could start. Andy in the back, can you show us, first of all, let's look at the Ophiuchus constellation.
Oh.
It sounds awful. It really does. Check that out. There's the constellation. It's right on the. It's right around the celestial equator, which might explain why it's not considered too often. But it contains Barnard's star, which is one of our, I believe, the third closest star to our own. So kind of a close relative. And if you. We're having all kinds of difficulties. If you bring up the next graphic, you can actually see the interpretation of the constellation. There it is, the serpent bearer, Ophiuchus. Thank you, Ophiuchus. So check out these dates. We have the dates that Professor Kunkel put forth, which would change everything. There they are. If you're a Capricorn, I know for myself, I'm a Leo, and I would be moved. I would now be a Cancer, and I'm not okay with that. I really do struggle with that. So. And look at poor Scorpio. You'd only be around for 6 days. You'd have basically 6 days to.
You'd be special.
To be something. So guys, what do you think? Astrology, Robert, Andrew?
I don't know. I'm a Pisces. I was born in February in '64. I'm a Pisces. Nothing changed for me.
Rob?
Well, I guess I'm a Pisces now. I used to be an Aries.
You used to be an Aries?
Yeah.
Do you feel like an Aries?
I do, and I will always be an Aries.
I don't know. You look like an Aries to me.
Pisces, that's the fish, right?
That's right. That's right. The two fish, or one of the signs, is also gold speckled.
Gold speckled.
I don't know. I don't know. But according to this thing, I'm supposed to be now an Aquarius.
Aquarius. What's that one?
That's the water bearer.
The water bearer.
So instead of swimming in the water, I'm supposed to be carrying it. No.
Nah, no, it's too much work. Way too much work.
No, I'm a Pisces. Nothing changed.
All right. Our guest, can you hear me? Do we have an audio connection? Nod if you can. Yes. Maybe. Yes!
Hey. Technology, you gotta love it.
We worked this out. Our guest tonight, Christopher Renstrom, the creator of RulingPlanets.com, which is the web's first interactive subscription-based astrology magazine. The site provides daily horoscopes, an astrology Q&A, and a historical library that reproduces American astrological periodicals from the 19th and 20th century. Renstrom also writes the daily horoscope for the San Francisco Chronicle, where he took over for Gene Dixon. Very cool. Right. Author of Ruling Planets, his horoscopes are read by millions of people each day. You've heard him on radio stations across the United States. You've seen him on MSNBC, live from Salt Lake City, Utah. Please put your hands together for Christopher Renstrom.
Yeah!
Hey.
Chris!
Hey, Chris.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Good. Apologies for the connection there. That happens. This is, a limitation. Sure. But you look great. You sound great. It's great to have you back. Our first repeat guest.
Yeah!
Yay. All right, our first guest.
A milestone.
All right, so this Ophiuchus made the news recently. A couple of weeks ago, everyone was in an uproar. I imagine you much more than others. Talk to us, what kind of phone calls were you getting as soon as this news hit that there might be a 13th sign?
Oh, everyone was in an uproar. It was like collective astrological identity theft, you know? They were like, what am I now? Christopher, you said all these sorts of things. I'm a Leo. Now I'm supposed to be a Cancer. Help, help, help. So it was really crazy. It was really insane. And all because one astronomer went and rearranged some of the dates. And that was fine for him, but we had to do the cleanup on all of that.
Yeah. So is there any relevance to this? I mean, the Earth, of course, it has shifted axis.
Is there any relevance to his claim?
Well, let's start with start with the Earth has shifted axis over the last few thousand years. Major earthquakes, pushes and pulls. We know there's been changes, correct?
I didn't quite hear what you said.
Sorry, we're going to get through this. We know over the millennia, the Earth has shifted its axis slightly.
Yes, it changes its north pole like once every 1,500 years.
Right. So things have changed slightly. So is there any relevance to the idea that we need a 13th sign?
No, there isn't any. Well, let me put it to you like this, Jeff. There's relevance if everyone wants to add a 13th month to the calendar.
Okay.
If everyone is on board with adding a 13th month to the calendar, then yes, we can give you Ophiuchus. But I don't think anyone's in a hurry to go and add 13 months to the calendar. We're really quite happy with the 12. And so that's pretty much where it's going to stay. You know, Jeff, the Babylonians, who originated astrology in between 18 and 1600 BC, they sort of test drove Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is one of the constellations in the zodiacal belt, and they were thinking, okay, we're working with a lunar calendar. Our lunar calendar is based on 13 months rather than 12, and so they kind of tried working him into their calendar system, but what they found is that once every 5 to 6 years, they would have to adjust the calendar. Now, nowadays, that might not sound like much because we have texting and Facebook and things like that, but back in Babylon, you had cuneiform tablets, so adjusting your calendar was kind of like a very difficult enterprise. And so they decided, you know what, I think we want to stick with 12 signs equals 12 months equals a year, and so that's why they ultimately wound up kicking Ophiuchus to the curbside.
Well, as far as adding another month, I'm actually okay with that. I could use the time. I could use extra time.
I like the idea of test driving Ophiuchus. It sounds like a car commercial.
Ophiuchus would be a
test
car.
drive Ophiuchus today.
The Prius of the celestial bodies.
It probably would. I don't think that car would sell well.
No,
I don't think that's a very good name. Terrible name.
Runs on mucus.
Yeah, serpent. It's a rough name.
Yes, it does rhyme with mucus.
It doesn't. It doesn't ring. It doesn't have a ring like Aries or Cancer or Virgo. Or
well, that was kind of my point. Maybe if it were Pegasus or Willa or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Ophiuchus.
All right. What are some of the funny calls you got a couple of weeks ago? I mean.
Well, what was
Any
really,
threats?
I think the most difficult one was from someone who decided she was born under Ophiuchus, and she's like, I'm now born under Ophiuchus. Tell me about my sign. Tell me what that means. And I was like, well, and then she's like, what signs is Ophiuchus compatible with? It was just like, it doesn't exist. Go back to being a Sagittarius. You're fine as is.
But it's very interesting that here's this, the breaking news, as I said earlier, sorry you couldn't hear it, we were having connection problems, but the breaking news is that this really isn't breaking news, right? I mean, we've known about this alignment for thousands of years, right?
No, it's not breaking news, but what it does show up is a very general misunderstanding of astrology, which is that the planets align exactly with the stars, and they don't. The planets are... We work with planetary alignments, but actually the alignments that we're working with are the solstices and the equinoxes. So it really depends on where the planets are at the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the autumnal equinox, and the winter solstice. Those are basically, if you can think of a clock, because astrology is always a celestial clock, if you think of 9, 12, 13, and 6, you give them directions, east, north, west, south. Well, you associate with those directions on the circle, on the compass, the solstices, and the equinoxes, spring equinox, summer solstice, autumnal equinox, winter solstice. This is our compass. This is our clock that we use in astrology. So it's really more the alignments that the planets make to each other than it is the actual zodiac signs.
I see. So it's almost like it's a very Earth-centric system, correct?
Yes, it is Earth-centric. And in fact, the person who discovered that the North Star was changing was a Greek philosopher named Hipparchus, I believe I'm pronouncing it right, who is also an astronomer, a Greek astronomer. He is also, by the way, the father of trigonometry. And so in astrology, because everything is drawn in this circle and we set up the geometric shapes of an opposition or a trine or a sextile, this is actually the beginning of trigonometry. And it was founded by the same person who discovered that the polar axis of the Earth was actually shifting, and so the spring equinox was not rising in the same sign that it had risen 1,500 years before. He was the one who said we are now, celebrating spring in Pisces. And so what he made up were the different zodiacal ages. There was the age of Aries when astrology began and the spring equinox was in Aries. Then there was the age of Pisces, which is the birth of Christ to now. And in 150 years, because it takes about 2,180 years for the shift from sign to sign to take place, in about 150 years, we will be in the age of Aquarius. So that's why we say that we are living in the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
That would be a great song. That would be
and maybe a musical.
I wouldn't go that far. I'd just stop at the song and leave it at that. But no, you're right. Of course, that it was a classic hit. So we do have questions for you in our chat room tonight, Christopher. Rob, please, what do our viewers want to know?
Well, I got this one. Oh, first, before I read the question, someone said, Sarah, we miss you. I haven't replaced Sarah. She's just not feeling well tonight. Okay, this is from Julie. The question is...
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Is the scientific community trying to hone in on the astrological community?
Scientific community.
Is the scientific community what with the astrological
trying to hone in on?
Hone in, maybe take a shot at the astrological community?
Are they throwing a monkey wrench?
The astronomy comes from astrology. So of the two, astronomy is the add-on. And astronomy starts to really come into its own during Galileo, obviously, when he says we are living in a solar system rather than a geocentric system. But then you see the rise of astronomy with the colonization of the New World, because astronomy played an instrumental role in setting up longitudes, latitudes, navigation for ships, all those sorts of things. So that's where astronomy really comes into its own. But for centuries before, it was astrology. And basically, astrology dealt with both the movement of the planets, but then the effects or the behaviors or the characteristics of those planets. People born under certain planetary energies and what kind of behavior they would have. That's where you have Ptolemy, who is the ultimate astrologer / astronomer. So astronomers, and this is where we get a little frustrated, kind of suffer from short attention span disorder when it comes to history. They have they don't want to go and sort of give it up to astrology. The fact that we were the ones who were climbing on top of the ziggurats for centuries and cataloging how long it took a planet to go around and return, and we were recording and cataloging the eclipses and the retrogrades since the time of Babylon. Well, scientists think that everything began with the telescope. And so they really kind of have this, I don't know, I guess it's a complex or something like that with astrologers, and so they're always looking for another thing to get all bent out of shape about. So again, it's usually an astronomer who will come out and say, hey, here's the scientific fact or whatever, and then it's like the astrologer has to go and explain it and make things right again.
Right on. So, but I mean, maybe it's because
they're worried about the size of the telescopes.
It's the size of the telescope. Very nice. But think about the way astrology is presented to mainstream people, right? Often it's a newspaper. It's a little bit in the newspaper near the comics section. It's just a couple of sentences.
Oh, it's next to the crosswords. What are you talking about?
Right, yeah, sorry. Yeah, the opposite page. But I mean, does that?
The paper with the good news?
Yeah, I don't read the other pages. I only know those two. But think about it. Does that undermine astrology? That you break down a sign into two sentences?
No, I actually celebrate it because and one of the things that I was really excited about with this controversy over Ophiuchus, rhymes with mucus, is that it kind of showed how many people really cared about their astrology. I mean, there's always been this kind of like, well, you know, people are fascinated by astrology or whatever, but not me, you're goofy, blah, blah, blah. Well, it caused this incredible firestorm of controversy. And I think news outlets and media were hearing a lot more about people really being outraged that their sign had been changed than they were perhaps expecting. And so what I found encouraging is it showed how popular astrology really, really is. I love astrology, and my whole thing is to popularize astrology in any form. I think if something's made too precious or you know, academic, it's boring. You know, so I love the fact that there are sun sign columns because A, I write one,
right.
and B, it actually sort of gets the message of astrology out there, that it can be fun, but it can also be intriguing, and there's more to it if you want to go there with it.
Right.
It's like a movie. You can either go to, you know, a blockbuster film, or you can go see some foreign arty film, you know, but it's still a movie. And so that's kind of the same case that I like to make about astrology.
Right, you can get as deep as you want. So as a guy who lives and breathes it and has for a long time, how much of it does it dictate your life? I mean, when you're making relationship decisions, when you're making business decisions, you know, do I take this job? Do I do whatever? I mean, do you really walk it and breathe it all day long, or do you just throw caution to the wind sometimes?
Are you asking basically how much does it influence, or do I use it to sort of make decisions in my life?
Yeah, right. I mean, to what extent does it affect your life personally, you, Christopher Renstrom?
Sure. I mean, we live in an astrological universe, so it affects everyone's lives. There's this kind of really ridiculous concept that people let astrology rule their lives, and you know, they don't. More often than not with the general public, if someone doesn't like what they're reading about their sun sign that day, they'll just click to another website or turn to another newspaper. So it doesn't really have this despotic hold over anyone's lives.
Right.
I use it like I would use a traffic report or a weather report. You know, I can see what's going on with the planets, and I can plan accordingly. And so it becomes part of, you know, the way that I live, and it informs my decision-making process as much as whether I wake up congested in the morning, or zippy and ready to go, or what's going on with traffic, or what's going on in the weather. We live with all sorts of elements that are contributing and shaping our lives, and what astrology does is sort of give us a map or a guide to help us navigate our way through what can sometimes be an obstacle course.
Now, talk about the difference between how some of this, you know, one of the things I hear about a lot is like Mercury in retrograde messes with everybody. Is that correct?
Right. Mercury retrograde is a real famous one.
Right. That's all I know. Sorry.
Because it often happens. The reason you hear so much about Mercury retrograde is a couple of different things. First of all, Mercury is the planet that symbolizes media and communication in astrology. Mercury is named after the Roman god who was the herald of Jupiter, the god of messages. So you're going to hear about Mercury because Mercury is most involved in media and communications. The other reason why you hear so much about Mercury retrograde is because of Mercury's orbit around the sun. Mercury will turn retrograde 3 times a year. So, you know, you'll have X amount of weeks and then Mercury's retrograde or Mercury's retrograde again and whatever. So it's something that really sort of you hear about over and over and over again. Mercury retrogrades are famous for traffic delays or any sort of entanglements with transportation. It rules over bad communications or things going faulty. And because Mercury was the patron god of sales, when he's retrograde, he goes from being the patron god of shopkeepers to the patron god of shoplifters. So there's often a lot of thievery or deception or things in the contract you didn't see the first time that you suddenly notice on the second time. So this is why astrologers will say, don't buy or sell or do any sort of, you know, major transactions during a Mercury retrograde. And astrologers have to give that advice, but, you know, let's face it, we all have to live our lives, so you do the best you can with the information when you get it.
Right, understood. Are we moving into a period right now where we all have to be cautious? Or is this getting
where we all have to be
cautious, or is this getting to be a good time of year?
No, we're actually moving into a wonderful period. This period right now that has astrologers super duper excited between now and June 4th we have Jupiter and Uranus moving into the zodiac sign of Aries, which is a very fiery, very expressive, very initiative type of energy. And so this is very good. Okay, this is wonderful, actually, for anyone who's born under a fire sign, like Aries or Leo or Sagittarius.
Hey,
Sagittarius,
Leo.
there's a sense of being back on track, of having your mojo back, of your vital energies being working for you and burning again. It's like a fire. It goes from a smoldering ember to an open flame. So this is really terrific for those signs. The only thing we have to sort of watch out for is, around March, we will be entering into the season of Mars. If you remember the last time we did our show, we did a whole thing on Mars. And Mars is named after the Roman god of war. So there could be international tensions and conflicts and things like that in the March, April period of time. So that's something we have to keep a lookout for.
Right on. Okay, we do have another question for you in our chat room. Please do tell, gentlemen. Oddball Pit.
Well, I'm going to kind of roll them into two.
Okay.
As soon as the light goes on there.
There
we go. All right, I'm going to roll them into two. First of all, Faith wants to know, does your moon sign change as well if we go to the 13th?
Would your moon sign change as well if we went to a
13th sign?
Does something change as well?
Does your moon sign change? Would your moon sign change? It sounds like no one's in a rush.
Would your moon sign change as well if there were a change in the sun signs?
Yeah.
Everything would change in that regard. But what's actually nice about that question is that the 13 months do refer to a lunar calendar. So, for people in Asia who live with a lunar calendar and subsequently also live with a lunar zodiac, if you're living in India or China, actually there might be more of a feeling that everyone's kind of more on track with your calendar because, again, if you live in the East, you have to contend with the Western calendar, the Gregorian calendar, which is a solar-based calendar. So, for people who work with the lunar zodiac, this would have been, a really nice thing. But again, we live with a solar calendar, and astrology is a calendar. You always work with the astrology or the calendar that you live under.
Right. Hey, what's a bad day on the job for an astrologer?
What's a what day on the job?
What's a bad day on the job look like for an astrologer?
Ophiuchus.
Besides the Ophiuchus of a...
Yes. If you're talking about what would be a bad or a challenging day on the job, it's Ophiuchus, someone discovering something like Ophiuchus.
Right.
And making us have to go, reassure, hundreds of people who are calling or twittering or tweeting or tweaking or I don't know what the verb is for that exactly, for some kind of reassurance.
Right. But, I mean, do you ever have people coming to you saying, it can't be right, I need some other information? I mean, is there consensus with astrologers when you're talking about some of the things that you write about?
Jeff, excuse me, I didn't hear the whole question. It was something about people coming in and asking...
Sorry, is there a consensus among astrologers when, in regard to, some of the bad times that happen to everybody and our various signs?
So do they come in saying, am I going into a bad time? Is that what you're asking?
No, is there consensus among different astrologers? Sorry,
yes.
Bad audio connection here. In regard to specific signs, is there agreement?
Yes, of course,
yeah.
Of course. What people sort of forget is that one of the ways you can look at astrology is really as the world's first internet, okay, without a browser. I mean, you're dealing with the nighttime sky. So you're dealing with planets, and when you agree upon, and astrology is remarkably a very conservative system. We have maintained the meanings for centuries, okay? So when you agree that Mercury is, for instance, the planet of communication, or a Saturn transit, meaning a Saturn passage in the sky might bring a time of difficulty, when you agree that these are the characters and these are the characters with,
right.
Then it's a matter of timing. You're watching planetary aspects, risings, settings, traveling across the sky.
Right on.
So you will get pretty much the same idea going on with the community because we're all looking at the same thing taking place.
Christopher, thank you so much. We are out of time. Appreciate you being back with us. Ophiuchus, go away for now. Thanks so much. Until next time, folks, stay on.
Ophiuchus!